Hi everyone, welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Mary if you're new here, and today we're going to talk about the 13 books that I read in February. It was a great reading month, way more books than I thought I was going to finish. I've got I think about 8 books here, and then the rest I do not own, but I will talk about all of them. For stats, I read a total of 4,118 pages, and I listened to basically 10 hours of audiobooks. And my average rating was 4.04 stars, so that was really good. The star breakdown, I gave one book 2.5 stars, I gave 2 books 3 stars, 2 books 3.5 stars, 2 books 4 stars, 2 books 4.5 stars, and 4 books 5 stars. Who would have thunk? So starting in chronological order, we are starting off with a bang with my 4 5-star books, and it is the Simple Wild series by K.A. Tucker. I binged this series so fast, and I read all of it in my reading at 5 a.m. challenge, I believe. I think I finished the Simple Wild before that challenge and then read these 3 during that challenge. It was my last video if you'd like to see. Phenomenal books. This is honestly my new favorite romance series. The first 3 books follow one couple, Kala and Jonah, and then the last book follows Marie and Tyler. Impeccable. The atmosphere, it's set in Alaska. There is so much drama, family, community, so many things that are explored. It's very much like a contemporary romance, so think like Emily Henry. There is a lot of romance that happens, but there is also so much more. And I would highly, highly recommend this to anyone that enjoys any type of romance. I think you will love it, especially if you're into contemporary romance. And K.A. Tucker is Canadian, so I love that. Love to support another Canadian author, and I'm going to definitely read her backlog or backlist of books. She's put out so many books, and I saw that she has a fantasy romance series, and I am so intrigued, so I think I will be picking that up next. But I read this all as ebooks, and then once I finished the series, I ordered it right away, which I don't do very often. And I'm really, really hoping she continues the series. I don't know if she will. I don't know if this is the end. I really hope it's not, because my heart can't take that, but I cannot sing any more praises for this series. The next book I read was Bride by Ali Hazelwood. It was my first, I believe, Omegaverse book, and definitely not my last this month. You'll see where this whole journey took me in a bit. I gave Bride 4.5 stars. I think it might be my favorite Ali Hazelwood book. It's between 2 characters, Misery and Lo. Lo is a werewolf, Misery is a vampire, and it is their love story. This world was a mess. It was definitely a little bit messy in terms of world building, but I had a blast. I had so much fun reading this book that I gave it 4.5 stars just based off vibes. And if she was to continue this series, I would not be mad about it at all. But yeah, I do see where some people didn't really enjoy the romance parts because it is very niche. You can't take these things seriously. I did not expect it, but here we are. It was an interesting time. Not mad about it at all. And if you like Ali Hazelwood, I would pick it up. Nothing like her kind of science romances. This is definitely a whole different genre. But if you enjoy her writing, I think you will also enjoy Bride. Next, I went really down deep into monster romances, I guess, and I read Ice Planet Barbarians and Ice Planet Honeymoon, which is the novella after the first book. And I gave Ice Planet Barbarians 3 stars, Ice Planet Honeymoon 2.5 stars. These 2 were just a ride. Writing, not really great. World building, very convenient the way things panned out, but was it fun? Yeah, it was fun, except And I talked about this, the first part of Ice Planet Barbarians. Don't think a lot of the things that happened was very necessary to add to the story. I think they could have gone without all of the triggers of the stuff that happened in the spaceship that these women got abducted in, but it is what it is. It is a human and monster romance, kind of fated lovers, debatable. At the end of the day, it was just pure entertainment. Would I recommend it? I don't know, but it was definitely fun. And Ice Planet Honeymoon, I didn't really enjoy that much. I think it was unnecessary, but I did read it anyways, and then I haven't continued the series since. I don't know if I will. I've heard, though, a lot of people like book 2. Next, after I read all of those animal romances, I decided to go back to a typical romance and read X's and O's by Amy Lee. Thought this would be nice because it was the week of Valentine's Day that I was reading this, and I ended up giving this 3.5 stars. Didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I was a lot better than I expected it to be, and I did enjoy it. There was just something missing for me, and I didn't know how I was gonna vibe with the influencer as the main character. So we have Tara, who is like a booktuber type person, and then she moves into an apartment with a roommate named Trevor, and she basically asks Trevor to help her go through this experiment that she's trying to do, where she goes back to her past 10 exes to see if she can rekindle and have a second chance romance. Asked him to help her because he is a very kind of one night stand type of guy, doesn't take relationships seriously. And then, of course, through the whole experiment, then they fall for each other. It was cute in its own way, but there was just nothing that really sparked or really gave me those 5-star feelings, not even 4-star feelings. So I would recommend it if you like Amy Lee, if you've read her first book. I have not read that book. I kind of read the series not in order, but these can be read as standalones. I did like the girl group. I think one thing about romances that I really like, a lot of the times they have a fantastic group of girlfriends and they really carry the story and carry the community, and I really appreciated them in this book. The next book I read hurt me so bad, and that is Lizzy and Dante by Mary Bly. I have had this on my TBR for years after Noelle Gallagher on YouTube said it was one of her new favorites, and so I had it on my shelves for a couple of years. I put it on my 24 in 2024 and decided to pick it up, and my god, what a beautiful book. I gave this 4.5 stars, and honestly I might bump it up to 5 stars because afterwards I was crushed when I read this book and finished it. It's a story about Lizzy, who goes to Italy with her friend Gray and his boyfriend Rohan, and she meets a man named Dante, who is a chef who has a daughter named Edda, and they kind of create or fall in love, have a romance, but Lizzy is, I don't want to ruin anything, so I don't want to go into too much detail, but Lizzy basically gets a difficult diagnosis right before her trip, which kind of gets her to go on this trip to Italy with her friend. And this is such a beautiful story about hardship, found family, kind of living your life as if you have a few days left. And it was absolutely beautiful. So much talk about love and taking risks. And again, I just was so heartbroken by the end of this book. I did tear up at the end, and a couple times in between while I was reading this book. I would definitely recommend it. It's definitely, again, like a contemporary romance where the romance part is not like super extravagant. It's not like there's so much open door scenes. Like, it was not a lot like that. It was more so that deep, true love for friends, family, and a significant other partner. Beautiful, beautiful story. Definitely one that will stick with me for a long time, and a new favorite romance. The next book I read was If on a Winter's Night a Traveler by Italo Calvino. I believe that's how you say his name. And I ended up giving this 4 stars. So I read this for Emmy's book club, for the Around the World book club, I believe it's called, on Fable. And I read this as an audiobook because that's the quickest way I was able to get the book through my library. And it is a book that is translated from Italian, and it is filled with magical realism, like to the extreme. I was so freaking confused reading this book. And the chapters are broken down where you follow a man and a woman that basically are reading the same book, but they have different stories in these books. And so they're trying to go on a hunt for this book. I'm not even explaining this right. The book that the man has, after I believe the first chapter, there's just blank pages. So he thought he got a faulty book, and then so he gets another copy, same thing, but it's a different story. And so as he is on a quest to find the actual book that he wants because he wants to finish it, then you go through the different stories that he's reading as the other chapters in between the initial story you're following. If you have lost me, don't worry, because I'm losing myself here. It's a lot of flip-flopping between stories. At some points you're like, what am I reading? But the stories in between, some of them I really enjoyed and others not so much. And then the main storyline you're following, I felt like there was such good prose and such honesty and kind of calling out readers for who we are and little quirks and things that we have that I loved. And then other parts I was quite bored and like didn't really want to continue or follow the story because I felt like it dragged on a bit. So it's very mixed emotions here. I believe it was written really well, very confusing. I would highly recommend reading it rather than listening to the audiobook or like tandemly doing that, because I think reading it you'll be able to kind of flip through and figure out the puzzle pieces yourself. The ending was quite genius and a great ending, honestly, to the story. A solid 3-star. I would recommend it if you're into magical realism. I think it's a fantastic book for that genre. But yeah, a lot of fun, lots of confusion. The next book I read was The Fake Mate by Lana Ferguson, and I gave this book 3.5 stars. Another dip into the Omegaverse. What can I say? I needed to go back to it, apparently. So this story follows Noah and Mackenzie, who are 2 doctors who are also 2 wolf shifters. Mackenzie is Omega and Noah is Alpha, but they kind of both keep it under wraps. It was interesting to have like wolves but set in the modern day world where they are doing everyday things that we all do, have phones, stuff like that, but then they are also wolves at the same time. I don't know if I really like that, but I thought it was fun. It is a fake dating romance. They are not really enemies to lovers, but they're just not friends, so they're just kind of like acquaintances to lovers. It wasn't as good as Bride, or like I just didn't feel that like pull and love for it, and it dragged on a little bit. I also think that maybe I just need a break from that world of romance because it was quite back to back that I was reading all of these books. But overall, I thought it was a fun story, a blast. And again, some people don't like the whole romance sex scenes in these books. I understand. I just take it with a grain of salt. It's all fake anyways. Like, you can't take that stuff seriously. So solid 3.5 stars. I would recommend if you want to try this world out, but yeah. Next book, I am so shocked that I read this in February because it comes out in March. That is Swift and Saddled by Lila Sage. Somehow my copy came and delivered to me like a week and a half before publication date. I'm recording this on Monday and this comes out tomorrow, but I already finished it, which is beautiful. This was one of my most highly anticipated romances or books in general for this year, and I ended up giving this 4 stars, possibly 4.5, but I'm thinking I'm settling on a 4. So this is the second book in the Done and Dusted series. What is this series called? Rebel Blue Ranch series. And this book follows Ada and Wes. The first book followed Luke and Emmy, and I just think I have such an attachment to that book that like nothing will compare. I loved that book so much. That romance was like chef's kiss, 10 out of 10. And it's not that I didn't love Ada and Wes, it just wasn't as like obsessed as I was with the first book. All that to say, this is a kind of like black cat woman and golden retriever boyfriend romance. Wes I adored. He definitely reminds a lot of qualities that I have personally, and I kind of understood his struggles of like that people-pleasing mentality that he has. And then Ada, in the beginning I was very indifferent about her, but she did grow on me, and I did love, of course, the family and community aspect of this story and this series. Lila Sage definitely does that right. And I would say she also writes in any conflict really well. It's not over the top, it's not exaggerated, it's very believable, very understandable, and I adore and appreciate and respect her for being able to do that in romances, because that is something that a lot of people don't like in romances, but conflict is inevitable. So yeah, love this book, loved this series, would highly recommend, and I cannot wait for the next book, because it's Teddy and Gus's romance, and the end of this book has like a blurb of the first chapter, and oh my god, I'm so excited for that book. But yeah, I love, and I cannot also believe that this is Lila Sage's second book. Like, that in itself is such an accomplishment. And these covers, the most beautiful covers ever. Love. All right, last but not least, I finished East of Eden in February. I started this in January and finished it literally on the last day of February, because I was like, I need to finish this. This is a hunk of a book. It is 600 pages. I don't even have all my thoughts wrapped together for this book. I'm settling on a 4 stars for this book. I don't think it's 5 stars, definitely not. I do think though this warrants like 3 rereads, because it's thick and the storyline spans across like decades. You follow kind of 2 different family lines. This story explores so much about just generational trauma and dealing with family and shitty situations and consequences for your actions. John Steinbeck though, adore his writing. His writing is so beautiful but so easy to follow. I highly recommend him for anyone that has not really ventured into classics, because his writing is so easy to follow and it's so beautiful and it catches you and keeps you going. I also didn't love the main characters, especially in the Trask family and like the children that came after. Didn't really love any of them. Didn't hate them, but didn't love them. They had so many flaws, and I think a lot of their flaws were emphasized in this book that, yeah, I was just like, you kind of deserved what you got, but at the same time, you don't, like, you go through turmoil reading this book. And justice for Lee. I loved Lee, and he was like that light and shining armor and angel that kind of carried this family through the entire book. Oh, so good. Highly recommend it if you want to read classics, or if you have read classics and haven't gotten to East of Eden yet. I think it is a fantastic story, and one that I definitely want to return to in the future. And now I've read, I think, 3 of John Steinbeck's books, so I'm slowly getting through all of his books, and I have adored each of them, honestly. And that, my friends, are all the books that I read in February. Let me know what you read in February, what your favorite book of the month was, what your least favorite book of the month was, and let me know if you've read any of these books and your thoughts. I would love to hear them down below, and I will see you all very soon. Happy reading! Bye!
Lazy Sunday mornings, hiding under covers. I don't mind staying in with you. Play your favorite movie, laying right beside me. I don't mind when it's just